Chuggalos, welcome back to episode 291 of the Brew Crew podcast. I want to thank you for joining us today. As JT said during episode 290, this is going to be a solo episode. We'll be back together for 292. But the thing that JT didn't mention was he actually recorded on the 6th anniversary of us starting this podcast on the 7th of August, 2018. We always talk about the mole people. So ouch out to all the mole people that will be watching this sometime in the future. But we're now going into our 7th year of doing this podcast. So when I was doing my notes, I got to change the number because I always try to keep the year that we're going into. It's just one of the things. And I had to start a new flip book, a new steno pad, if you will, going into this podcast. Lots to get caught up on. I know JT at the end of episode 290 said, hopefully Matt will teach you something new. And that I just listened to the episode as I just got back home yesterday evening. And so that puts a lot of pressure on me. Hopefully something throughout this podcast. I'll teach you guys something new. But until then, I want to go with my first beer because it's Sunday. And it's a little afternoon, and I'm getting a late start, but I'm going to go with something that's a very polarizing beer, and then I'll tell you about all my trips and tribulations over the last couple of weeks, is Oliphant's Brewing Pickle Beer. It's a brined lager. I like how that camera adjusts. And this comes at 4%. I'll get into Oliphant. We've had them 3 times before on the podcast. And I actually just went out of order, but we'll call an audible on this because I'm hoping this won't destroy my palate for the second beer. But this originally was supposed to be my second beer. So we'll go with this as my first one. I love pickle juice. Again, polarizing where people are on pickle juice. On the nose, wow, that's 100% a pickle juice. My biggest grievance with pickle beers is it's too much cucumber. Give me all of that dill. And pickles, I understand, are wide-ranging. You got sweet and sour pickles. You got bread pickles. You got sweet pickles. You got gherkins. And then you got dill, which dill, I bet in the pickle pie, this could be your fact. In the pickle pie, I bet dill pickles make up 90% of the pickle market share. All right. Of course, first thing I do is I get my steno pad wet, which is one of my biggest pet peeves I do. So the last 2 weeks, I've been on the road. Let me adjust a little bit. I've been on the road, doing work, taking care of business. The first week I was in Minnesota, as you guys know from episode 289, I was on orders up there, and I was playing it a little conservative this last trip because I had my fitness test that I had to do. And instead of fitness, all this beer and food into my mouth, I decided to, keep it pretty clean for the week so I'd have a good fitness test. Well, good news is I passed, got over my 90%, so now I don't have to do a fitness test for another year, but I got to keep up doing workouts and stuff so I can enjoy more beer. The second thing on my trip, the second part of it was a family vacation in Wisconsin. Both of the beers this week will be from Wisconsin. And as I was stacking the fridge, because of course we did some big purchases, I was like, I want to do that one with JT. I want to do that one with JT because I want to get his thoughts. And if he used Untap, then I would be able to get his thoughts. But I want to do them so I see them live. And both of these beers, both lagers, by the way, today, lagers from the state of Wisconsin, I want to have JT's thoughts on them. So I'll put a couple off to the side. But there's a couple I need to see the live reaction for really to get, that full circle or that feedback loop that I always want satiated when I give people beers. It's like Chuggalo Dave. We'll close the drama on this. I wasn't able to see Chuggalo Dave on my most recent journeys when I was up in Minnesota. Chuggalo Dave did say that he checked into that Yingling Blackhead Tan or whatever whatever lager that we gave him. So I got to go in and check that. I thought that he would give me a feedback on Facebook or via text message, but that didn't happen. And that's okay, as long as he said he got back to me. Wow, while I drink this beer, let's go check out the Oliphant website. So this is Oliphant. There's not much to their website. And we've had them 3 times before in the podcast. The most recent was 2023. They don't have an About Us, but I just came off of their splash page. And they're in Somerset, Wisconsin. For you non people non-familiar with the geography of Wisconsin, this is the western part of Wisconsin. This is probably only 15 minutes from Minneapolis, St. Paul proper, east into Wisconsin. But I just love how the background scrolls with it and the foreground. That's just excellent development. And again, you can Oliphant skins. You can see kind of like a fantasy. And do you have questions? Unfortunately, they don't have an About Us. Open every day. And the reason why I dig these guys so much is because they're very on the edge. They've got some, standard, but they do sours very well, like, peanut butter golden ale, West Coast IPA. But they do these sours, the Pickle Beer, Brian Lager, which I'm having today. But they do such a good job of doing weird or a little bit out there. I say avant-garde, but they take risks. And that's what I appreciate with Oliphant. The other reason, ouch out, they were turned on to me by Chuggalo Ryan. Chuggalo Ryan, probably one of my prized possessions, one of my favorite koozies. Bought some koozies on my travels. I'll get into that, and beer too, obviously. But I just really like having this connection with Chuggalo Ryan. We were talking a little bit, and I want to come up with a revelation. Chuggalo Ryan was out in Wisconsin going to a couple of different breweries. And I'm always known as being anti-flight and anti-children at breweries. I'm softening a little bit on kids at breweries, and I'll go into that in a second. But I still think that there should be a line in the sand created for some of these breweries, like a specific time of day, almost like a bowling alley or like a bar or something like that. Like no kids after a blank time. Make it a free-for-all or whatever, but if you're a single individual or a dink or, somebody that's just looking for a kid-free evening, like you paid that babysitter to come over and watch the little Rugrats, have that be an opportunity. And maybe that's my bridge to other individuals. And again, there's people that are going to always be attached, but just to give that segment of the population that, that freedom. But as Ryan says, it's all about marketing and it's all about the Benjamins. All right. So with that said, we took our kids when we were on vacation, and my wife's best friends and their kids and my in-laws, and we went to a place called Tumbled Rock Brewing. And Tumbled Rock Brewing is in Baraboo, Wisconsin. I had a bunch of their beers. I rated them on my Untapped. It's really literally out in the middle of nowhere. Beautiful facility. A very ambitious food menu, but they under-deliver on the food, which is going to be good because the beer was exceptional. The beer was really good. They took they took a couple of risks. Some like spicier, like jalapeno type beers or ales that really carried well and carried that freshness and almost that that crispness of a jalapeno. It was delightful. But their food, when you're like saying roast beef or au jus or cubanos, they didn't have any seasoning. It's not just salt, but a lot of their food didn't have seasoning. So while all of us were pleased with our drinks that were being offered, the food was just a little bit off. And a picturesque brewery, they welcomed kids. We sat outside the patio this last week for weather for the mole people. It's been like 70s and sunny everywhere, like Wisconsin, Ohio. So it's been an exceptional time to get out and enjoy the outdoors, and we had an opportunity to do that multiple times on vacation. But they're not one that caters to kids. So there was no functions for the kids to do, no kids play area. So the kids will always find their own play area. And in this case, they found some, there's other kids there that were like throwing like rocks or like spreading rocks on this like elevated AstroTurf meeting area, if you will. And so either one of the owners or managers came out and started picking up these rocks. So we sent our kids up there too to help out with that and just to make a good impression. But really good brewery. The food, ambitious menu, just didn't work. But again, check that out. Tumbled Rock Brewing in Baraboo, Wisconsin. All right. Now I want to talk more about JT's 290 because I like to watch him and I have a response. JT went into depth, but a approachable and an ability for like somebody that wants to learn about beer without being pretentious or hoity-toity, but really like deciphered and broke down like cryo hops and alpha acids and isoalpha acids. I didn't even know there was a difference, so I learned something more about boiling them. And again, it's all timing and when you choose to do that, and that's why you can take I think he used Mosaic or Cryo or whatever, and then that's why not all beers taste the same, is because of the science behind it, and the brewmasters and all of those individuals that take charge in that process, like when they put it in. And that's the big thing about brewing. Always write down everything that you do, because if you do make a banger and you forget how you do it, at least you can go back to your previous notes. Okay. So excellent episode, JT. That was a good one. Okay. So this beer, the first was a home run. It's starting to get, I don't know, like not thin, because pickle juice is thin inherently, but there's a aftertaste. And the aftertaste isn't that pleasant. This is like if I'm going to do like a pickleback or like a pickleback shot, which you're familiar, you'll have like a high grab shot or whatever like that, and you'll just do a pickleback chaser, like whiskey pickleback, so they call it pickleback. The initial 3 seconds of this beer, phenomenal. It's that next 5 to 8 to 9 seconds that there's like an odd or unusual aftertaste. And I don't know if that's part of the lagering process, because this is a 4% lager. But it takes away from the enjoyment. And again, like you can go to oliphantbrewing.com and you can, check out. I might ask them, one of the questions I might ask is, why is that malingering? And it's subtle, it crescendos down. But I'm intrigued. And now the palate is completely, like, I don't taste dill pickle. You know what it reminds me of? Because Old Dutch has a dill pickle chip that's fantastic, where it's got like that sodium that carries out. Maybe it's the sodium but that should be more pleasing to me. I don't know. This beer is...
And that's the bottom line.
It's a mystery to me. And, I do like and I do appreciate mysteries. Off the top rope, I'm going to give this a 3.75. At first, I thought, man, this was going to be... I got to write that down so I remember. Everything is spreadsheets over here when Matt takes care of things. Yeah, I thought when the initial impression of this beer, I was like, this is going to be a 4.5 up. It's going down a little bit. This is a one-off. This beer comes in a 4-pack. I don't think I'd be able to have more than one in a sitting, and it's definitely something I want an accompaniment to, whether it be a Bloody Mary or like some sort of whiskey drink, but it can't be like a sweet whiskey drink because the sweetness, maybe that's what it is, instead of just being all dill, like a sweet and sour pickle. I do like that the cucumber's not there, though, because cucumber will eliminate my enjoyment. I don't mind cucumbers. They're just far better in a dill pickle situation. Wow. I thought I was going to have a lot more. I'm going to get off on beer too here. I thought I was going to have far more to talk about. I was sitting here. I was doing my research. I was watching JT's episode. And being gone the last 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm sure it'll come, I always got to write stuff down just, so I have that prompt and that list to work from. I cross stuff off. Just let my palate settle down a little bit. Something to learn. I'll just take care of that. All right. Beer number 2. Also from the state of Wisconsin. This one I bought 100% for the can art label. The can art, yes, is Wisconsin Jet Ski. Like, so when this was sitting on the shelf, I mean, it just jumps out at you. It's got the Wisconsin. It's very lightning plate-esque, if you're familiar with Wisconsin license plates, if I spin it right. This is a 4.9% lager with lemon, or excuse me, Pilsner with lemon. And again, America's Beerland, which I've seen a lot more of people like a lot of people on Facebook, and again, just because of who I'm friends with, have been posting, what's the drunkest city in your state? And, like, I think for Ohio it was Cincinnati, which makes sense, German influence. For the state of Wisconsin, it said all of them, which is hilarious. This is Badger State, and they're out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. So the other side of the state, the far eastern part of the state, and where the true America's team, the Green Bay Packers, are from. And again, a 4.9% Pilsner with lemon. So we're gonna go with the crack. I feel like I've done the can art boner. Here, I'll even play the. Where did I put the music? There we go. I did the can art. All right. So I'm gonna do it so I don't get my paper more wet. All right. So initially, this was going to be my first beer because I wanted to talk about Badger State a little bit. I don't really get the lemon. Not at all. So anyways, Badger State. So you could go to badgerstatebrewing.com. Again, Green Bay. What obvious that they have, I want to talk about this immediately, recipes. So they're going to post their own recipes, which is awesome. Please do it, because then, but you'll see why it makes sense because of how they started. So about us. So they've got videos or whatever. They started in 2013. So congrats on 11 years. And again, Badger State, everything harkens, it's because Wisconsin. That's going to be loud. Sorry, Stacy. Wow. Just three dudes. I like that three dudes that they started off in college doing this. But, and they even say, sorry for scrolling, that they started such as New Glarus, which Wisconsin proud, Sierra Nevada, Dogfish Head. So then you go to more large national brands. But yeah, I like the picture of them, obviously college time, just, with Carboys. And again, this will, Badger State is all over the state of Wisconsin. It's typically on tap. Sorry for scrolling around so much, but I like the team, meet the team pages. I like seeing, who represents the beer. I also, the reason why I went here, favorite beer style. Tell me what you like for beer style. So the entertainment and events director, sours, coffee stouts, fruited IPAs. Jen and I could get along great. Those are some of my favorites. Anything cold and fresh, that's a typical Wisconsin, but mostly traditional bitter piney, multi American IPAs or any German lager. And then, but I want to know all these other people's favorite beer styles. Let's talk to, they're people too. I love it. Then the co-founders, it's just awesome good stuff to talk about. And look, jet ski front and center there. Let's check out our beers while I drink. And again, Badger State, it's got like a shield, if you will, or about that. Raspberry Peach Bellini. I haven't seen them available outside of the state of Wisconsin, but they're all over the place when you go to any bars or stores in the state of Wisconsin. All right. I feel like I've done that justice. Oh, I didn't realize I didn't have my webcam on or off. All right. I don't get any lemon. This could be like Leinenkugel's Honey Weiss, where they say that's made with honey, but you don't get it. I expected just a little bit. I'm not saying like a lemonade, but like a freshness or a zest or a pop to it. Both these beers are a sub 5. I can't remember the last time I did a sub 5. I'm wondering, when you get this on tap, now my brain's trying to find that lemon. I'm wondering if you get this on tap, straight from the source. Like if you went to Badger State in lovely Green Bay, Wisconsin, if you get so much more of that lemon, or if they serve it with like a wedge of lemon, which would make sense. Maybe a little bit. I think I will say I'm getting the lemon, and I think my brain is trying to do it justice by knowing that there's lemon in it, and it's from my home state. I will tell you two frustrating things on my trip. So one, we always go, when we go back to my in-laws in outside of Waukesha, Wisconsin, we always go to a place called Discount Liquor, which is hilarious because you can always buy Rheingeist cheaper there than you can at the brewery or any place that sells it in the state of Ohio. It's got to be something with taxes. You can get it in the state of Wisconsin for $8.99 a six-pack, and nowhere in the state of Ohio can you get it under $9.99 a six-pack. It's just, again, hilarious. Two, sorry, Stacy. Very effervescent with the pickle. That burp was all pickle. Sorry, Stacy. Two, so I went to Discount just saying, hey, I got a couple holes in the fridge right now, and left there with a little bit more. And now I got to redo my cellar because I bought a bunch of cellared stuff that I want to take care of. I just need to have more events or more cellar explorations with JT or with other friends. I could almost build 7 or 8 just cellared advent calendars. That might be a good idea. Maybe I should just build a cellared advent calendar this year and rotate some of that stuff out. It's nice how in the pills process, how fresh and ice cold is the way for this beer to be. I just pulled it out. It's been sitting on ice packs while I was doing my research. Maybe the lemon's coming out more. The one thing I want to say too is I've said it every week for like the last couple of THC beers and seltzers and sparkling are becoming way, way more prevalent. I laud and appreciate the sellers, be it the bars, the breweries, or the liquor or beer stores that are doing that where it's clearly marked. And I thank you so much for doing it because a lot of them have attractive packaging. But as somebody that can't have that stuff, I'm glad that I have that warning label before I make a mistake. So there are countless. I noted it multiple times, and I would think like the cashier, if there was a supervisor, I would always say, hey, thank you, because it happened many a times in the last couple of weeks that they're clearly marking it, and it's just not intermingled. Typically, it's in its own section. So that's awesome. One point of frustration is pull tabs. These last 2 weeks, pull tabs are huge in both Minnesota and Wisconsin. I've known an individual that pulled a $1,500 pull tab in Minnesota. Chuggalo Ryan pulled a $100 pull tab just as my kids were pulling pull tabs. Bought $80 worth of pull tabs in my vacation. $80. Made $9 on 80. That's a terrible return. But the kids had fun, so they were just flipping pull tabs. And they understand at 5 and 8 what they look like, what winners and losers look like. Okay, on to this beer. This beer is refreshing. I appreciate that. The lemon could be a gimmick that could be turned up a little bit. But again, do you want to take away from the Pilsner, the German purity laws? I don't think so, with it being a cleaner made beer. So it's an accompaniment, not the centerpiece, because let me just check the can. It says with lemon, not a lemon Pilsner. Rather, it's a Pilsner with lemon. So I don't want to get wrapped around the axle too much about that, even though I would hope for more. You got to go in with an expectation. It's a Pilsner that has a lemon gimmick to it. Off the top rope, this is a fine beer. I like that. I mean, the best part of this beer, I don't regret buying it. I can't turn it. It's just that that's home. That's home in a can. Never owned a jet ski. I've rode jet skis. It could be pontoon, though. But jet ski is like the Wisconsin pontoon beer, which would be pontoon crushable. You could have multiples of these. This could be like your crushable or your daily drinker or whatever like that. If you like something a little bit more fresh, and this would span the palates of many people, both the novice, the novice or the beer connoisseur alike, and that's what I like about it. Off the top rope, I'm going to give this a solid 4, and I feel good about it at that. But that's going to be it for episode 291. I debated going live on this one, and I wanted to show the websites because that's a fun gimmick I get to do when I'm just recording in the man cave. And then I thought about getting Chuggalo Mikey involved and going live or whatever, but I didn't because of the websites. I wouldn't be able to switch screens with YouTube, even though I do want to do a live episode. I've had a lot of fun with those. It's nice when we have all of our tech, though. Maybe from the carriage house. We'll figure it out, though. I want to do a live one. But that's all I got for you on 291. Barreling ever closer to episode 300 and kicking off year 7. Year 7 of the little beer podcast that could. But until next week, Chuggalos, cheers.